Get ready for the fight of your life! There can be only one winner!
Superman vs. Godzilla is as old a matchup as the characters themselves are. Everyone and their mother wants to know who would win between DC's embodiment of hope and Toho's embodiment of destruction. Godzilla vs. Superman isn't just Superman vs. Godzilla, it's David vs. Goliath, except on a much more cosmic scale. Well, if these two icons were to come to blows, who would actually win? Hey, I'm OC, and today we'll be answering the question, can Superman stop Godzilla? Although I think I should specify I'll be using the main current comic version of Superman against a soft composite version of Godzilla. So not fully composited, no, he won't be getting any crossovers that don't make any sense to him, but he will be getting some crossovers. Now that we've gone over the versions of both Superman and Godzilla that we are going to be using, let's finally get into the scaling. But before I do that, please like and subscribe, it really would help me out a lot, and I would love to grow my channel if that would be okay with you. But let me stop yapping, I know you want to see these characters get power scaled, so let's get into that. Superman is an extremely powerful character. He is stated to be a threat to all of existence, which is consistent due to the fact that he scales to the source wall, the literal apex of DC. This is even more consistent as Superman embodies hope within DC. Hope within DC Comics is able to defeat the anti-life, which is another half of the source, which would make Superman scaling to the source even more consistent. But how strong is the source? Well, let's get into that. The base DC universes are made up of at least 12 dimensions, if not infinite of these infinitely stacking higher spatial and temporal dimensions, which would make a base DC universe anywhere from a low multiversal universe to a high hyperversal plus construct. But add on to the fact all of these universes are infinite in size with infinite timelines and infinite possibilities, it would likely be far higher than just baseline low multiversal. But also add on to the fact that modal realism exists within DC, this would mean that within the bleed, which is basically the holding point for all of these infinite universes, would actually be a high outer versal construct, because it posits the existence of all logically possible worlds as concrete realities, extending beyond mere infinite multiverses to encompass the entire logical space or framework of all possibilities, making it a fundamentally higher, conceptual level of existence that transcends physical dimensions and standard infinities, with extended modal realism ever adding impossible worlds, pushing its scale even further into conceptual realms. And I know what you're gonna say. Oh, OC, the bleed rotates through the fifth dimension, it's in bleed space, and the fifth dimension is a spatial dimension, so therefore it can't be outer-versal. What people tend to forget about World's Finest issue 27 is that the context is literally about spatial and temporal dimensions, not the categorical 5th or 6th dimension. So not only do DC downplayers have to prove that this comic is referring to the actual 6th dimension where Perpetua is from, but they also have to argue against their best source of DC being kept at 6D because of the fact that the comic itself is literally telling you that this is a 6th spatial or temporal dimension, not the 6th dimension where Perpetua actually resides in. And with this, it is verbatim stated and confirmed that the 5th and 6th dimension, where Perpetua and Nixie actually reside in, are not literal spatial or temporal or even physical layers of reality. Oh no, DC does not cap at 6D. Please stop spreading that awful false narrative. Anyway, continuing on, the 5th dimension is also stated to be magical. Magic resides within the God Sphere, which is a Platonic archetypal realm. which would already give Superman even more high outer-versal scaling than he already has, due to him being a threat to all of existence, which means this realm, the fifth dimension, and the entire multiverse. Since Superman scales to the source, a apex of DC, which is blatantly above every other layer before it, like the fifth dimension, which is beyond space and time, as well as the Phantom Zone, which lacks the concept of dimensionality. And there's also the fact that Superman transcends space-time as well, which would just give him more credence to that immeasurable to irrelevant layers of speed. Now let's move on to the king of the monsters. Now, to expand on the soft compositing of Godzilla for a little bit, I will be using stuff that is canon to the IDW version of Godzilla. But any kind of crossovers that contradict the God Mountain being the supreme being of the Godzilla multiverse will not be used, as, well, I know that Marvel is canon to Godzilla, but the one above all is not the God Mountain and vice versa, so I will not be using it. However, things that are actually canon to the crossovers for Godzilla, like Power Rangers, as they share a multiverse, these are completely on the table for Big G. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's get into how strong is a soft composite Godzilla. Like I said before, God Mountain created all of IDW Godzilla, which would actually also include the movies, as characters from said movies appear in the comics. Godzilla killed God Mountain, which would obviously upscale him off of Showa and Heisei, which have infinite 4D to 5 or 6D levels of scaling. However, the best scaling I can realistically grant to Godzilla is him being above the morphing grid, which has been stated to be potentially beyond space-time and dimensionality, which is a baseline outer-versal feat. Now, before I move on to speed, we need to talk about him. Godzilla Ultima is a very powerful version of Godzilla. However, where people tend to go wrong about Godzilla Ultima is the fact that he is, quotation marks, high hyperversal plus, when the said infinite dimensions they are drawing reference to don't have a transcendence to one another within singular point itself. People get mixed up with the fact that you need infinite dimensions to get to hyperversal with the fact that they just kind of leave out the fact that you need to transcend one another to actually get to high hyperversal. Now, moving on to speed, Godzilla should easily be in those inaccessible to immeasurable ranges due to the fact he, well, defeated God and he existed before space and time, so yeah, it's pretty easy speed scaling for Godzilla. Now that I've gone over both of the AP and speed scalings for the two characters, I hope it is blatantly obvious who wins this matchup. Superman is a high outer-versal being with irrelevant to the around same levels of speed as Godzilla, and Godzilla at best gets to 6 or 7D to potentially maybe baseline outer-versal at best. So I really hope it is obvious who wins this fight.
OC, what about Godzilla Ultima's existence erasure and plot manipulation? He's not getting past that kind of hacks, dude.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, a random guy at the end of my video, but yeah, just like I've said before, Superman is just far too strong for Ultima to actually get past, and he's already taken these kinds of hacks before. Anyway, OC out.